seems to be a symbolic gesture because this is an African American community. And we all have the rights to do and to come and to move the way we should. But this is not their community. This is not their neighborhood. These are the times that we're living in. And I would suggest to anyone to not live in fear, but definitely be prepared for what they're prepared for. And no fear.
With all the racist ass bullshit that's going on in our country, I want to talk about sundown towns. Sundown town is an all-white community or county that excludes black people and other people of color through discriminatory laws, harassment, threats, and violence. This may go without saying, but they're called sundown towns because if you're not white, you need to be out of there by sundown. At one point, there was an estimated 10,000 sundown towns in the United States, and although that number may have gone down, it would be ignorant as fuck to think they all just completely disappeared. I'm not trying to freak anybody out or anything, I just think this is an important issue to bring awareness to, and I just want y'all to be safe. Here's a list of towns and counties that were, at least at one time, a sundown town. Now, are they still? I have no idea. This topic is kind of hard to do research on. This is the best list I could come up with. States I put up here all had too many to fit in. If you know of any current sundown towns, put it in the comments. Let's try and keep some people safe.
I heard about that whites-only community over there in Arkansas. From what I'm hearing, you got to be a specific brand of white person to even get in, bruh. They say they only accepting white people that wear the polo golf shirts. You got to wear them. Khaki shorts, 6 inches above the knee at all times. They say they going around with a tape measure, and at any point, if your shorts come any lower than 6 inches above the knee, you automatically excluded from the community, bro. That's what they say. And then they say you got to wear Sperry's, bro. That is the fit, bro. The polo shirt, khaki shorts above the knee, and Sperry's. They got a dress code in the community. Hey, that's just what they say, bro. I ain't saying that's just what they say, y'all. So, I don't want to be around them type. It's really like the Coops. Y'all remember from Outer Banks, bro? You got the Coops and then the Pogues. They say they only accepting Coops. So, if you one of the poor white folk or you like redneck, no, none of that, bro. But no, none of that. You got to be this specific type in order to get in.
So I just came across this video of a girl talking about another video she saw of a woman talking about sundown towns in Oregon. She realizes that she lives.
Oh, none of that, bro. But no, none of that. You got to be this specific type in order to get in.
So I just came across this video of a girl talking about another video she saw of a woman talking about sundown towns in Oregon. And then she realizes that she lives in a sundown town. And the way she figured it out was by this map. And I guess the redder the circle is, the more certain that specific place is a sundown town. So I looked it up just out of curiosity. And I live in LA, by the way. And there's lots of red dots in the LA area.
So now that you have an idea about sundown towns, they were to racially exclude Black people from living, working, walking in these towns. Historically, people of color, especially Black travelers, this is specific to people who were passing through the town. When Black travelers found themselves in a sundown town after dark, often they faced harassment, intimidation, violence, and sometimes death. Now just imagine that happening in 2025. Still in 2025. The exact outcome depended on the place and the time. But some common things that happened in these sundown towns. They had police harassment or arrest. Police officers would stop and question them, sometimes jailing them for vague reasons, whatnot, loitering or vagrancy or any nonsense like that. And then they would hold them until morning time. Sometimes there would be mob action where groups of white residents might chase them out of town, threaten them with weapons, or physically beat them up, assault them. Sometimes they would have property damage. Their cars would be vandalized, tires slashed, windows smashed, just to send a warning. Get your ass the hell up out of here. Hell up out of here. The worst case scenarios were people were disappearing and people would get lynched. In the most extreme, tragic cases, especially in the early 20th century, Black people were murdered for violating sundown towns, sundown rules, right? Sometimes they were forced, they were escorted out of the town by force. Sometimes a police officer or an armed group would escort people to the town limits before sunset or shortly thereafter. Because of this, many Black families and travelers, people who traveled all over the South and the North, we use tools like the Negro Motorist Green Book. That was a Negro Motorist Green Book, 1936 to 1966. I'll describe that later on. And they'd be able to look at that and find a safe place to eat, travel, and refuel, especially when they were traveling through rural or segregated areas. I'll talk about Negro Motorist Green Book a little later on. Let's finish with people talking about the sundown towns.
I literally just find out what a sundown town is. It is basically these little towns in the middle of the Midwest, or like places where it is overruled by rednecks, basically, or like there is more population or like rednecks. And so what I found out is that like after like it gets dark, like when the sun goes down, basically what the name is, they start like unaliving people like of color if they see anyone like around them. And it just made me think about it because I'm literally in the Midwest, and also I'm in these little towns. I'm like 50 minutes away from the city, and so like literally I'm like by farms and all this. I don't know. That was just funny because I'm delivering to these places, and since I'm a Mexican of color, like a morenito, that was funny. I don't know.
Hey there, amigo. What's the hands on the crack?
Let's talk about the time I lived in a sundown town, and yes, I Googled searched this because I just wanted to get my facts straight, make sure I wasn't being a little delulu with my facts. And yes, I do mean I lived in a sundown town. My story is around 2008, so I started living in this very small town on the west side of Pennsylvania called Sharpsville with my father and his wife, who I might add is from that sundown town, born and raised. I won't give any real names or details of addresses because first of all, you can't do that on TikTok. And second of all, I do not want to talk to these people. And if you're watching this, yes, I said what I said, and I stand on it. I'm not a safe place for your feelings. It was so small, it had one traffic light in the whole town. And if you drove for over 10 minutes consistently, you would end up in Ohio, which might not be too far away from where that Proud Boy neo-Nazi incident happened, where they got their asses beat up with like canned vegetables. But I digress. I was a freshman. I was 13 years old. And quite quickly, the bullying and the harassment started every single day. There's this one girl, I don't remember if she was in my grade. She looked like she had been held back like 5 times. Her name was Cheryl? I don't even know. She was white, obviously. Most of the population in this school. And every day, she would pull down and yank on my backpack till I fell down. Every single day. That shit is on camera. There was a girl named Megan Whalen who consistently made fun of me, harassed me, bullied me with her group of friends who didn't like me because I was just tan, because I looked different, because I could speak another language. Yeah, God forbid, you learn something different. And Whalen, just so you know, whenever I put up my middle finger in class, it was aimed at you. If it wasn't abundantly clear already, it was aimed at you. There was nothing I could do in this sundown town without the finger being pointed at me as the sole responsible for all the shit you would do. Oh, and that one time I called you a puta? Yeah, I called you a bitch because you were a bitch. Your bangs were whack, and you were a weirdo. And no, you were never my type. I was constantly told to go back to Mexico in person and through text messages, even though I'm Dominican. I have been to Mexico once, and that's after I became an adult, like 25 years old. But it's okay, because people from this sundown town, at least in the time that I lived there, really believe that Mexico is the only place in the planet that speaks Spanish. This is why the Chinese are giving us a run for our money. I was in the principal's office at least once a day for lashing out at people that were racist towards me and xenophobic, because I had absolutely no idea at 13 years old where all of this hatred that came from people I just met came from. My stepmom, a white American woman who had been brought up in this small town, was incredibly annoyed at the fact that she had to deal with these problems she had been so oblivious to for so long. Like, what are these problems? What? This doesn't exist. Not to you, they fucking don't. But I kept having flashbacks of every single time I suffered bullying harassment, and I started getting real pissed off about it. Why was I the target of all of these hateful acts? This bullying, this harassment. Why didn't adults stop it? Because adults were in on it too. Always remember the fields in Charlottesville. Always remember how beautiful it all was. I remember seeing so much grass, seeing so much nature everywhere I went. They were stunning and peaceful. It is so wild to me to think that such beauty hides and conceals such disgusting, appalling, disgraceful, and neurotic behavior. Y'all are threatened by whoever is different than you and treat them as a threat without even asking questions first. I thought we were against Russia, but I guess we're just gonna follow their MO. It is absolutely no surprise to see all of y'all turned out to be Trump supporters. I'm so glad I got the fuck up out of there before this happened. I'm so glad I got the fuck up out of there before 2025 happened. Just say you guys want slavery back and you're a white supremacist. Just fucking say that. Just say you don't care about Jewish people. Just say that everything that those people fought for and came here for is worthless.
In the city of Henderson, Nevada, if you're not white or LDS, they don't want you there. As a former police officer, sworn marshal, and most importantly, Hispanic resident of the city of Henderson, Nevada, I can tell you firsthand that the police department don't treat people equally. If you're a Mormon or white, you're gonna get a pass. The local government of Henderson, Nevada is trying to turn that city into a little Provo, Utah, or even worse, Salt Lake City, Utah. All the high-ranking officials are Mormon. Judges, city attorneys, prosecutors, public defenders, Henderson councilmen, former mayors, constable, police officers. They're all. And don't even get me started on the private sector. At the end of the day, the Mormon Church has a portfolio of $150 billion. Yeah, $150 billion. And they want a little safe haven to protect the Mormon cult and to also protect their predatory lending and business dealings. Every high-ranking government official for the city of Henderson, Nevada is Mormon, and they protect their own. And trust me, if you're black or Hispanic, stay your ass out of racist Henderson, Nevada, the sundown town. They want your money through fines, citations, and incarceration.
The Negro Motorist Green Book. It was often called the Green Book, was a travel guide published annually from 1936 to 1967, a couple years right as I was born, during the Jim Crow era in the United States. It was created by Victor Hugo Green, a black postal worker from Harlem, to help African Americans travelers find businesses, restaurants, gas stations, hotels, and other establishments that were safe and welcoming to them, to black people at the time when racial segregation and discrimination made travel dangerous. The Green Book listed places across the U.S. and eventually other countries where black motorists could eat, sleep, and refuel without facing harassment, humiliation, or physical danger, especially in sundown towns where black people risked violence if they stayed after dark. It became an essential survival tool for black families, musicians on tour, business people, and anyone traveling by car. Publication stopped in 1967, just a few years after the Civil Rights Act of 1964, legally outlawing segregation in public accommodations. Now, the big question is, why don't more people know about these sundown towns? Is because there's been a long, deliberate effort, both official and unofficial, to erase or soften that part of the U.S. history. You notice how they're trying to erase progress of the Black American achievements in this country to reach racial equality. Okay, there's a lot of reasons why this stayed hidden, or it stays hidden, or why people don't know about them today. I knew about them because I was raised in the sundown towns, because I was raised around them and my parents told me X, Y, and Z, right? A couple reasons why they still stay hidden. No one wrote about it in mainstream history books. Reporters never reported on it. School curriculum often avoided those topics that would reflect badly on towns, states, or the country because of what white people did. That's why, because they didn't want white people to look bad. The Jim Crow South got some attention, but many sundown towns were in the Midwest, in the West, and the North. Places that like to think of themselves as free from racism. But as you can see, the young lady mentioned 2008. So they're not racist free. Okay? This challenged the good guy narrative, so it got skipped. Communities covered their tracks. A lot of them covered their tracks. Many towns literally took down signs, destroyed old city records, or rewrote their histories to avoid shame and legal issues. When researchers later tried to document sundown towns, they often found silence and denial, like today, like these days. Generational silence. A lot of these white folks know that they lived in sundown towns. A lot of white folks still know they live in sundown towns. You ain't seen a black person in your town, you need to be questioning that. You don't see no Hispanic person in your town, you need to be questioning that. Older residents often knew the unwritten rules, okay? Often older white people, but they didn't always speak about them. Sometimes because of shame, sometimes because they thought it was over now, we done with that. And sometimes because they still quietly supported the practice of sundown town. And often not, it just wasn't in the South. Most people think racism was in the South. It was in the North too. The idea that segregation was only a Southern thing helped erase sundown towns from the national conversation. Many people still think racism was only codified in certain states. It only happened certain places. Not realizing there were hundreds and possibly thousands of towns across America that quietly enforced all white residencies. So when we hear about this Arkansas place trying to pop up, we already know, bro. We already know there's some still here. We don't give a damn about your sundown town, cause we know. We already know. We making sure we got gas and food, and we ain't got to pee. You ain't got to worry about us coming up in the town. It's an uncomfortable history for some, especially white people. Admitting your town had or still has a racist past can cause reputational damage, and it affects tourism and stir up conflict. Many people would rather pretend it never happened, but it is there, and it's still there to this day. The reality is, even today, former sundown towns still feel unwelcoming to people of color. It's just no longer written on a sign, that's all. Okay? So this Negro Motorist Green Book helped to navigate the way for a lot of black families back in the day. And a lot of those towns still exist. You just got to figure out where. Find out where they used to be, and then see if they're still like that. And there's a lot of them that are still like that. I gave you a list in the last video that I did. And the young lady said 2008 she lived in a sundown town and she was harassed in a sundown town as a Hispanic. See, a lot of y'all walk around in a haze, in a daze, like you don't understand that racism is alive and well and kicking here. Okay? It's alive, well, and kicking.